Let's dive into the history of Judaism, not as some static timeline, but as this dynamic evolution that was constantly being shaped by crisis.
To really get this, we have to go back to a time when the early Israelites were culturally Canaanite. Just like their neighbors, they didn't worship just one god. They had an entire pantheon.
And the overlap here is pretty striking. The top god for everyone in the region was El. You also had Asherah, the mother goddess, and Baal, the storm god. The early Israelites worshipped them too, but they also had their own special national god, a warrior god named YHW. Now, the crucial thing to get here is that YHW wasn't the top dog yet. He was one god among many. This little verse, from an ancient copy of Deuteronomy found with the Dead Sea Scrolls, preserves this much older idea. It actually describes the high god El, dividing up the nations among his divine sons. And it says that Yahweh's slice of the pie, his assigned nation, was Israel. It's an amazing snapshot showing that Yahweh was originally seen as a subordinate god, ruling his people under the authority of El. How on earth did this one national warrior god end up replacing not only the supreme god El, but the entire pantheon to become the one and only god? The answer seems to be a massive political and religious revolution that happened back in the 7th century BCE. And the guy at the center of it all was a king of Judah named Josiah. His revolution kicked off with the supposed discovery of a long-lost book of the law inside the temple. Was it really a discovery? Let's just look at the evidence. On the left, you've got the laws from that book, Deuteronomy. On the right, what King Josiah actually did. It's a perfect match, point for point. He isn't just following the law, he's executing a pre-written plan, basically a blueprint, probably written by his own court, designed to centralize all political and religious power in his capital, Jerusalem, under one king and one God. Josiah's revolution worked. It established YHW as the one god for the nation of Judah. But this brand new religion was about to face its first huge test, a catastrophe that would either wipe it out completely or forge it into something totally new. 586 BCE. This is a date we're historically certain about, and it changed everything. The Babylonian Empire swept in, conquered Jerusalem, and burned the first temple, the literal home of God on earth, right to the ground. And the loss was just total. The temple, gone. The land that was promised to them by God, gone. Their king, God's chosen ruler on earth, gone. And the one thing they were certain of, that their national God would protect them, that was shattered. For most ancient peoples, this would have been game over. The Judean leaders, who were now exiles in Babylon, had to answer an impossible question. If our God is the one true God, how could this possibly have happened? Any other conquered people would have just given up, maybe started worshiping the Babylonian gods. To survive, the Judeans had to come up with a radical new answer. And their answer was nothing short of brilliant. First, they didn't abandon YHW. They gave him a promotion. See, he wasn't just their god who lost a battle. He was now the one universal god of everything, who actually controls all empires and just used Babylon to punish his own people. Genius. Second, with their land gone, they created a portable homeland, the sacred text of the Torah. And third, with the temple destroyed, religious identity was no longer about where you sacrificed, it was about what you did. Observing the Sabbath, following dietary laws, circumcision. They forged a religion that could survive absolutely anywhere. This new, portable, monotheistic Judaism is born. But its story was far from over. For the next 500 years, it would have to figure out how to survive under a whole string of powerful foreign empires. First, the Persians come in and conquer Babylon, and they actually let the Judeans go back home and rebuild their temple. But then, a couple centuries later, here come the Greeks with Alexander the Great, and after them, the Romans, and each one of these empires would leave a permanent mark. And that interaction was totally transformative. After about 200 years under Persian rule, Judaism absorbed some really revolutionary concepts from the main Persian religion, Zoroastrianism. Before the exile, the afterlife was this vague, shadowy place called Sheol for everybody. But afterwards, you start to see brand new ideas pop up, a final judgment, a resurrection of the dead, and this grand cosmic struggle between good and evil, personified by angels and demons. These were game changers. The next big wave was Hellenization, basically the spread of all things Greek. Greek became the common language, which led to something incredible. The Septuagint, the very first translation of the Hebrew scriptures into another language, Greek. And this opened the door for Jewish thinkers to engage with Greek philosophy, leading to totally new ways of thinking about ethics and the nature of the soul. All this outside influence also created deep divisions inside the community. By the time the Romans showed up, Judaism wasn't this single unified faith. Not at all. It was more like a collection of competing groups. You had the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Zealots, all arguing fiercely about the right way to be Jewish under foreign rule. The whole society was a powder keg of debate, with a rising expectation that God had to intervene. And that powder keg was about to explode. In the 1st century CE, it finally did, triggering the last great crisis of the ancient world for the Jewish people. A crisis that would result in not one, but 2 successor religions rising from the ashes. The year was 70 CE. After a disastrous Jewish revolt against Rome, the Roman legions did exactly what the Babylonians had done 6 centuries earlier. They marched on Jerusalem and destroyed the Second Temple. And this time, it was for good. The entire system of priests and sacrifices ended forever.
And so just like that, everyone, from the followers of the Pharisees to this tiny Jewish sect that followed a man named Jesus, they all faced the exact same urgent question their ancestors had faced in Babylon. How do we connect with God now that his house on earth is gone? This time, two very different answers emerged. On one hand, the successors to the Pharisees, the rabbis, they basically perfected that portable religion that was forged in exile. The study of Torah became the new sacrifice. Prayer became the new offering. The rabbi replaced the priest, and the synagogue replaced the temple. But on the other hand, the followers of Jesus, especially led by the Apostle Paul, offered a completely different solution. They said that Jesus' death was the ultimate, final sacrifice that replaced the whole temple system. For them, faith in him, not following the Torah law, was the new path to God. And that's the crucial takeaway. From the rubble of 70 CE, the common ancestor, Second Temple Judaism, split. Two brand new religions, Rabbinic Judaism and Christianity, were born from the exact same crisis. Each found a viable way to move forward without a temple, but those paths took them in radically different directions.